Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis, updated commodities, work our way through the dollar yields, precious metals, and commodity ETFs that I follow. I'll interject my financial opinion as we go. And if you have any questions with anything, check out finding-value.com. We've got question and answer sessions on the weekends. I do midweek updates in the middle of the week on Wednesdays, where I share my opinions more freely about individual companies and individual sectors. We do have a coupon code still going on that is active. May Day is that coupon code. So let's dive in. Let's see what's going on today, and I'll give you my opinions. We're going to start with the DXY. And again, I still think the DXY looks strong. Whenever you have patterns that are angled downward, they generally work their way on up. It makes me think that the dollar still has legs to go higher, which ultimately is an extension of what I think of interest rates, which I think interest rates will probably still work their way up at some point or remain elevated. The DXY is measuring the relative strength of the dollar versus other currencies. So if other currencies do lower their rates, it would suggest that the American yields would lag behind it. And that's how you could get a dollar that goes up and yields that could either go sideways, slightly lower, or higher, depending on what they decide to do. So looking at the 2-year yield, we are up 1.3% today. Decent day today to the upside. We are still in this consolidation, could be a 3-hump consolidation going on, and a potential break higher is still possible. Or if we get the lowering of yields, what we'll see in the 2-year yield is we'll see this dive downward, breaking through that upward sloping trend line. So we haven't broken out of that pattern yet, and that is something that we are watching all together here. We've got the 10-year yield also bouncing today, 1.5%. Pretty big bounce for today. And again, we are also squeezing into this upper area, and we'll see if we just roll sideways, work our way on up, or if we've got the momentum, which we do have some momentum heading lower, and if we can break that upward sloping trend line. The 30-year is doing the same exact thing. They are all doing the same exact thing and working their way through this pattern, and we'll see which way it breaks in the future, either upward or downward. What's that mean? Generally, when yields go up, the dollar will go up with it, and it's generally good for crude oil to go up. If yields go up, they kind of work hand in hand. If the yield curve uninverts and we get a slowdown in the market, gold and silver generally do very well. And there is a possibility where we have an increasing dollar DXY, rates go down a little bit at a slower pace than other currencies, and we get a weird mix of kind of everything. It's a weird mix. TYX TNX ratio slightly lower today. We are still inverted, very much so. This is the inversion that we're at. And again, generally speaking, precious metals do well from an uninverted state, or from an inverted state to an uninverted state. So we uninvert that curve. That's when precious metals generally take off. And it's a loosening of yields, and even potentially money printing could be going on as well in the background. Bond prices down today about 1%. We did have yields go up. And is this a back test to that support level? That's what we're looking for. We're looking to see which direction yields go. Yields going up is a headwind for the stock market, S&P 500, NASDAQ, those types of things. And it's generally a tailwind behind commodities. We saw a very strong increase of interest rates, and oil, uranium, and a lot of commodities did very well in those types of market conditions. The 2 and 10 inverted, and it's staying inverted at this time. We are very much inverted up here, and it's not uninverting yet. We might have some, a good while longer to stay inverted. Gold down a little bit, down $15. It does look a little, it doesn't look that bad actually. we've got this pattern. It's downward facing that generally will work its way on up. So I think gold still looks good. We haven't broken out of this falling wedge yet, but I would suspect that it would break to the upside. And we do have longer term momentum that's been generated from the downside up. We've got silver also up just a little bit. We've got a wedge that is forming, it looks like. So think of it as a wedge that looks something like this. And you can obviously draw this thing kind of however which way, but it looks like there's a falling wedge that will eventually break to the upside because falling wedges break upwards, generally speaking. You can get a false breakdown where it does something like that, and I call that the slingshot, where it falsely breaks a falling wedge to the downside, gets everybody on the wrong side, and then rips it to the upside. That is the slingshot. Platinum ripping up about $16 an ounce, and hopefully we put in a bottom here. That would indicate a low, a higher low, a higher low, and then if we get a low here, another higher low as we hit this trend line and try to break through. And that's good as each trend line hit, we are faced and encounter less and less sellers, and that force is bringing us down less and less. So we're eating through the selling pressure, what we're doing. Palladium down a little bit. We're back to that support level right on top of it. And palladium is the out of cycle metal. I don't expect this one to just rip and stay elevated. I think that we are going to do a consolidation. So think of it as this top similar to this top here. And then we've got all this kind of consolidation to do here before we start a new bull market. I think we have to go through all that for palladium. Platinum's already done its basing. I think that's the one to look at for sure. XAU to gold ratio slightly lower, but again, we are at a incredibly low level. Lots of opportunity here. I would be buying this retest for gold and silver mining companies against gold. So I would be on the prowl looking for potential opportunities in this general region for XAU to gold ratio. We've got GDX also doing a retest. We are slightly lower today, but it does look like it's slowing down, and we'll see. And we're back to a good amount of support. We also have support of that trend line going through, which is this trend line here, and I put it on the closings. So that still looks good. GDXJ down a little bit. Does look like that is slowing down a little bit, and it looks like we're kind of coming to some point here. We'll see if we can get some sort of movement higher. SILJ down a little bit as well, right back to support. All of these have broken their patterns. Well, at least GDXJ and SILJ have broken their patterns to the upside here. We're getting a little bit of a return move, but I would remain bullish because of where the yield curve is inverted. And when that uninverts, these generally all take off. So that's why I would remain bullish. Crude oil up 1.7%. I know some people are very bearish. They think a recession is coming. This to me does not look like a topping pattern. This to me, if we break here, I would be all out bullish. And I'm still bullish, and I still, own my oil and gas. If we get a nice break, what I would like to see is a break of the downtrend line first. That's what we'll get first. If this is going to move in a bullish way, which I think it will, I would really like to see a clearing of like $87, $88 and a close above that. I want to see a new high. I don't want to see lower highs coming on down here. You can see the lows are coming up too. So we are meeting towards this section here where something's going to break either upward or lower. I think that either way, since we're sitting on top of this consolidation pattern, I view it as bullish. It's a bullish big pennant formation. And then we are going to break. So that's where my mind is at. I'm not in the recession camp. I don't think the leading indicators are signaling that yet. I can change my mind in a heartbeat if they start to go up to show up negative. And that's at 2-year yield too. Watch the 2-year yield. If it starts to drop like a rock, I might change my tune a little bit. So TTF gas down a little bit today. Momentum still to the upside. Lots of support underneath us. Looks good. We've got natural gas in America coming back and doing that retest to the support level of 2.7, $2.70-ish. Yep. And that's looking okay. Our boy XOP, yeah, you know me. Although crude was up 1.73% today, we have this falling wedge and we've dipped to the downside. Maybe that's from extreme bearishness. Some people will say it's a breakout to the downside. I would, hold your britches there. We've got an inverted head and shoulders. We've got a neckline. We're at the neckline. We've got a little bit of selling pressure that dropped us out of this the past 2 weeks looking backwards. So what we want to see is, what is the reaction here? Is oil going to break to the upside of its pattern? And what is XOP going to do? Is the sentiment going to change? And that's what we're watching. That's what we're watching. I'm going to remain bullish on this, and I know we've got some selling pressure moves here, right through there. Negative sentiment for sure, and we're at very low levels for speculative longs in oil. So we very well could go down a little bit more. It is still in the cards, and we'll see what it looks like over the next few trading sessions. OIH getting a little bit more sentiment change a little bit, up 1.6%. But here's our, the big selling pressure move. These have all been bearish formations pointing upward. And right now, we don't really have a huge formation. You could maybe even say that we've got some sort of flag pattern maybe going on here from the upside, but we'll see. We've got support right where we're at. That's what the trend line is going here, and we'll see if it holds. No doubt in my mind, if crude oil breaks to the upside, that XOP and OIH will follow eventually. Some people ask, why do the equities lag the price of oil? Well, the equities are a summation of oil price times a duration, which is how long that oil price is at a certain level. If oil prices fall, you might see the equities stay high for a while. But if they stay low, if the oil price falls and stays low, sometimes the equities follow. And if the oil price is low and it has to come back up, sometimes the equities lag the commodity because of the duration that the commodity is at a certain price. And it will start to impact the balance sheets in a negative or positive way, depending on how you look at it, of the equities. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, up a little bit. Looks like it was trying to get some juice today to the upside. So that looks a little bit better, but we do have a lot of downside momentum before this. Sometimes it takes some time for this to work its way on out, and I wouldn't be too quick to jump on it just yet. Let's see which direction this thing goes in the short term. URA down a little bit. We do have a lot of support in the general area of where we're at. Lots and lots of trading has gone through that whole area there. So we're at support. URNM also down a little bit, right on support, and then URNJ down a little bit above support, but we've got support where we're at, and we'll see if it can hold. We've got TAN down a little bit, momentum's to the downside. We'll see if we can turn that thing around, but we're right next to that resistance level that is above us. And eventually we'll see if this thing can turn. We've got copper down a little bit, 0.8%. Remember, stronger yields. It does look like it's trying to put in some sort of bottom type action. You come on down, you get this thing that kind of comes like this. It'll probably go sideways and then work its way on up. That would be my guess. But if yields start to rip to the upside and break to the upside, you might see some of these base metals come under pressure. If yields do that, not saying they will. It's an if. COPX also just slightly lower, down 0.83%. And looking at it bigger picture view, we had a nice breakout here, and it's just been pulling on back in the short term. Lithium up a little bit, 0.76%, trying to get and find a bottom somewhere around here. We've been consolidating sideways here A lot of the times it can come back right to the peak there. And that's kind of what we're seeing there for a potential bottom. And we've got support here at about $36 is what we're seeing here for a longer term support, 35, 36 bucks. We've got REMX, the rare earth metals. This one looks pretty weak at the moment. We had broken this to the downside here of this upward facing pattern, and that is bearish for a continued move lower. So this looks pretty weak in the short term. We've got the S&P 500 still rocketing higher. That looks pretty good to continue on up. Same with the NASDAQ. Looks good to continue on higher. It's been ripping it. We've got Russell 2000. Pretty nice move today here, and it is a bullish engulfing. So when we get these bullish engulfings, they can be a turning point where we could head higher here in the short term for the Russell 2000. Looks pretty good. KRE also throwing in a pretty big candlestick, looking like it wants to try to work its way on up. And it is at a lower end spot where it's finding some support there of the channel. Emerging markets also heading higher. Now this one looks pretty good. Up 0.64%. It is holding its support level. There's your support level, a double bottom, and a potential move higher. Totally in its cards if it can gain some momentum to the upside. XHB also working its way on up. We do have a bullish engulfing. Does look pretty good to work its way on up for XHB. So maybe we're getting close to the end of this consolidation here, where we can try to work our way on up and out of this area. And I think home builders are going to rip it. I still think that. And I know there's a lot of people out there that disagree with that opinion. Good luck. Here's Moo. This looks like a really good entry point. Bullish engulfing down here. And there's going to be some opportunities in the VanEck Agribusiness ETF. Right on support, I would be looking. I would be looking down here. We've got iron ore up a little bit, and I do think that this is probably putting in a double bottom. I'd be looking for a move higher for iron ore. Nickel's down a little bit. Surprised at nickel, to be honest. We had a nice, good setup here, and it's just been falling off the cliff. But I will say, sometimes you get these accumulation cylinders. So everything isn't lost if you kind of look at it from this perspective, where maybe we start to turn around some point down here in this cylinder. We've got a lot of cylinders being created, even in other commodities. Aluminum also down a little bit. And again, remember that we had an increasing interest rate today, pretty big one, and it may weigh on some of these base metals. Some of the base metals, but it does look like it's trying to put it's got a little hammer candlestick. We'll see if it can turn. Needs more trading sessions. Baltic Dry Index up a little bit, still looking pretty good. I think that this has a very good chance of working its way on up. Looks really good right on support. Newcastle Coal Futures above the downward sloping trend line. We were up today 0.26%, and I think this is an excellent entry point coming up over here that we are in. We've got Bitcoin down a little bit, still above support, still looks okay, and it's holding on top of support. Ethereum also working sideways and still looks good. We had a nice big move up, and it's been consolidating sideways at this time over the past few trading weeks. SMCI up 5%, still looks good to go higher if it wants to go. Big bullish candlestick, small selling pressure. That configuration is still present. And then NVIDIA, just to look at that, that's still in upside momentum mode. It's got a huge market cap, 3.22 trillion, probably bigger than most countries' GDPs. But that's what I've got for today, guys. Give me a thumb up for the content, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the website if you'd like. We go over a lot of commodity sectors, but you guys can also go and venture into whatever sector you like. If you have questions in it, I just focus more on commodities and precious metals because that's where I think the value is at right now. So that's where I focus my effort. It's where the value's at. But that's what I've got for today, guys. So we'll catch you later. This is Finding Value.